But we begin tonight in Nelson, where an American tourist has been sentenced this afternoon on 2 charges of careless use of a motor vehicle causing death and 4 charges of careless use causing injury. At the Nelson District Court today, cardiothoracic surgeon Kenneth Wolnak was ordered to pay $165,000 in emotional harm reparations. Mr. Wolnak was holidaying with his wife when, in his own words, he made an ill-advised U-turn into the path of a truck on State Highway 60 near Nelson in February, killing 2 men, 41-year-old Steve Jays and 69-year-old Kevin Whitburn. 4 others, including Mr. Wolnak's wife, were injured. Mr. Wolnak suffered concussion and has no memory of the accident. Kevin Whitburn's widow, Janet, spoke to Checkpoint a week after the accident while she was still recovering from her injuries. She said that while she forgives Mr. Wolnak, she also chose not to meet with him during the restorative justice process. We'll get her reaction to his sentence shortly. But first, Kenneth Wolnak spoke exclusively to John Campbell here in the studio at the request of the Whitburn family about the weight of his guilt.
To put it mildly, an ill-advised U-turn on this state highway, I think you call them, at a particularly inauspicious point, and thereby precipitated the accident. As I understand it, the driver of the truck who was killed in the accident swerved to avoid me, striking our vehicle and ending up in oncoming traffic where he struck another vehicle, or the vehicle and its trailer. I'm not sure of. And I believe the driver of that other vehicle was also killed.
Kevin Whitburn and Steve Jays were the people killed, right?
Right.
And Kevin Whitburn's wife, Janet, has been on this program.
Yes, I had heard that, and I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her, but I have met 3 of her children.
And she said, and it was quite remarkable to hear her say it, it was an accident and she forgives you.
Yes, when I was told that, a couple of weeks afterwards, I don't recall how, when she appeared on your program. But to be perfectly honest, as the widow of somebody who was, killed in this tragedy that, that I precipitated, it was remarkable to hear that, but entirely consistent with everything, what I heard from everybody, who I had the chance to speak with about this in New Zealand, who was familiar with the accident or not.
You're saying you've been the recipient of, and I'm paraphrasing here, immense kindness and a sense that people understand this was an accident, as terrible as that accident was.
There's absolutely no propensity to blame me
Do you blame yourself?
from any of your countrymen.
Which is a lovely reflection, I think, on, I hope, on us. But do you blame yourself?
I think it's impossible not to. Yes, I hold myself responsible, for, causing this mayhem.
Can we talk about the issue of driving on New Zealand roads? Now, I've driven on American roads, and there is a paternalism about American road construction, which means that you never are in any doubt about where you're going at any stage. And you drive on an American highway, and it is marked and laned, and there's median barriers, and you are, Whereas you drive on a New Zealand highway, and it's a misnomer. The word highway is a misnomer. It's a country road, and there's traffic coming towards you, and there's lots of discussions about this because the bulk of our tourists, setting aside Australians and Brits, actually not the bulk, I don't know, a number of our tourists come from places where you drive on the other side of the road. Is it problematic? Did you from time to time think, where the hell am I? Where am I going? Am I on the right side of the road? Did all of that stuff happen, or did you get it?
Honestly, I was just constantly reminding myself, wide and right. It's the left turn that's easy here, not the right turn. And one or two times that I can recall, first thing in the morning, we're driving out of our B&B or wherever we're staying, and I'm stopping to make the turn onto the highway that we're going to move on to the next magnificent sight to go see. And I would stop, and all of a sudden, and I would call my wife's attention to it, and I would laugh. I go, I'm on the wrong side of this driveway. And generally, that was it for the rest of the time, for driving that day or otherwise. So yeah, I did get it. But it was a matter of concentration. Mm-hmm. It was a matter of willing myself to be aware of it all the time. And I have to say, it wasn't the most relaxed excursions, on the roads, because I was constantly thinking, what am I going to do wrong or something? Happily, absolutely nothing happened until Nelson.
New Zealand's very different from the United States. And one of the ways we're different is that, first of all, there are no lawsuits here because of ACC. And secondly, there is this sort of thing of restorative justice, right? And so you are meeting the families. Have you been through that process?
The counselors that I've met who have facilitated the meetings are all about bringing, some peace and closure to all the parties involved.
And how hard was it for you to meet people whose loved ones you had, through this accident, caused the death of?
Well, I was forewarned that it would be a potentially brutal process. I haven't found it to be brutal at all. It is, it shakes me to the bone, and I would never want to volunteer myself to be put in the situation of having those meetings and confrontations, but they haven't been confrontations. They have just been a process, through which I can only hope that some peace is brought to these, poor grieving folks, and a process through which I can make some kind of restoration. Impossible as that is.
And say sorry.
Well, that's the start. And for some people, that appears to have been enough. Just the acknowledgement of responsibility and expressing, profound, as unimaginable as their grief may be, I find it difficult to put into words how sorry I am about that. There was a period of time right after the accident, particularly when I was made aware of the fact that the unequivocal opinion was that I caused the accident, that I certainly felt like I'm going to spend a good long time finding a rock to crawl under and not wanting to peek out too much. I think some of that was the concussion, but some of it undoubtedly was the rawness of how it felt to have that, that awesome guilt. And to some extent, I almost feel guilty speaking about myself, because, I was injured, my wife was injured, but, our lives will go on. So it's been a straightforward process. And like I said, I can only hope that it brings some peace to the folks, who are affected, and particularly the families who have lost fathers and husbands and sons.
What were they like, those families, when you met them?
Well, apart from the fact that they were clearly grieving, they were ordinary good folks. I learned about the two men who died. They were both, fathers and husbands. I met one father and one wife, and like I said, some children, adult children, and got to see pictures of some lovely young boys who unfortunately are going to grow up without a father. You know, they just seem like good, solid citizens. So, you know, I can only imagine how acutely their losses felt. And I hope that there's some way that I can, you know, do right by them.
And that's Kenneth Wolnak speaking to John Campbell before today's sentencing.